Welcome to Assumptions. My name is Kyle. I would consider myself a atheist.
And my name's Daniel, and I'm a Christian. Now, our podcast, Assumptions, comes out every other week, and we talk about how our worldview interacts and where we disagree and where we agree around certain topics. But sometimes we encounter a piece of pop culture or something going on in the world that we really want to talk about, and we can't fit it in to our podcast.
I know. So that is what this channel is all about, to have those little pop cultural snippets that we can jump into and talk about.
That's right. And the winner of the Sundance Film Festival is a film that's been bought up by Netflix. You can go watch it right now. It's called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
So it's a mouthful of a title.
I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. We both loved it.
Yes, yeah, very much liked it.
Probably going to be my top 10 list of the year. But I wanted to talk about it, Kyle, because the first 10 minutes of that film, in my mind, sums up the problems of a closed box worldview.
Right.
And I'm really curious if you identify with that and how you would respond. So the first 10 minutes of the film, we see Ruth. She is a little bit depressed. She's helping patients that are dying. And she encounters just all kinds of assholes in her life.
This is honestly my day-to-day all the time. I mean it. Like, it's like sitting in traffic and just the person that has the loudest truck here in Calgary has to be like right beside me. You see the people like buying 17 items in the 10 items or less line at the grocery store.
And each of those things happens to Ruth. But then she goes to work and she's helping this patient that's dying. And this patient just has these racist curses coming out of her mouth. It's really vulgar, hilarious. And then she breathes her last. Mm-hmm. And then Ruth goes home and her house has been robbed. And she just can't deal with all of this at once. So she goes to her friend's house and she's reading a bedtime story to her friend's daughter. And the bedtime story is a science textbook for kids. And it talks about how the stars are thousands of years old, that human bodies are made of dust and gases, the universe is 14 billion years old, nobody knows what came before, nobody knows what's going to happen.
And then she breaks down.
And this little girl's just staring at her crying about this.
Right.
And right after that moment, Ruth has a conversation with her friend and talks about this patient who just died and how the terrible things she did. It doesn't matter, she says. They'll roll her out and she'll become smoke, just carbon. And then she describes her grandmother whose silver they stole and how she brought life into those that were exploded. She was a World War nurse and would spend her retirement helping people with cancer. And she says, and now she had a stroke and she's just carbon too. And I am the only one who remembers any of that. And pretty soon I'll just be carbon too, so none of it matters. And then she says, sometimes I feel like I'm underneath a whirlpool and I can't even breathe. Mm-hmm. And for me, it seems like she's thinking very hard about her worldview and what she believes, and that's how she feels about it. That is the depression that most of us perhaps try to hide, but if she's honest about what she believes, really, she's got a point.
Well, no, I agree with this. So this is her kind of getting to her lowest point where she is just existing in this world and she just feels the pressure and the burden of everyday life on her. Yeah. I think it's that thing of like death by 1,000 cuts.
Sure.
Like, it's not just any one of those individual things.
Right.
It's that like I have to put up with this and this and this, and all together it starts to be just too much.
Right.
And I've definitely been there in my entire
too.
life where it's just like I don't want to deal with all of these little things anymore. I just want to push them away.
But her central complaint is that even if I do all this good, there's people around me that are assholes, that are doing terrible things or just averagely terrible things. But it doesn't matter if I do real good and I overcome that, or if I just am like them, because in the end, there's nothing beyond the here and now to preserve that. Even the memories of the goodness will be destroyed.
So is your question then to me, like, how do I continue to go on with that knowledge?
Yeah, so my question would be twofold. Is that an accurate view? Do you agree with that view that I just stated? And then second, if you're being honest, do you get to that same point of depression that she has?
Okay, so let's go with the first question first. I think that, for me at least, it's only natural to dwell on that occasionally, which is, there is, I don't want to get political, but let's just say that there are certain people in our world and certain people that are in the news a lot. There's like, you are being a not very good person, and it seems like you were constantly being rewarded for being a terrible person.
Yeah, she actually says that at one point in the film. Yeah.
And so, as a person that tries to do good in the world or attempts to be a good person, that is very dispiriting when you see that this is being rewarded when I've been raised and I've been told, and society tries to tell me that this is not the way to live.
The
and
bad
yet,
guys are winning.
I see the bad guys winning over
and so
here at the same time.
As a Christian, I would say, well, hang on, there's a higher accountability going on,
Right.
that there's another world where justice will be served in one way or another, and so that what you see right now isn't the here and now. But you don't have that.
I don't, and I guess it's going to be hard for me to put into words exactly how I feel about this, because I think, and I might be unique in my outlook on that particularly, because
You are unique.
thank you. I'm a unique snowflake.
Yeah.
It's not so much that I need to be rewarded for good. I just have to know that justice or the long view or even history will recognize that this is not what humanity as a whole stands for. And I guess that's just what I hold to my chest, which is like the here and now, maybe these bad things are going on and bad things are being rewarded, but I don't think that's going to be looked back on fondly years from now.
Right.
And somehow that's going to have to pull me through.
Right, okay. So you're hoping that there will be something that will justify you, that will vindicate you in this world. But what she's saying is that even at the end of the world, we're all just stardust. We're all carbon that we're all just going to burn.
I mean, and then that's something that that really famous physicist who did the Cosmo talked about. Well, Carl Sagan said, like, we are all stardust.
Yeah.
Like, that's his famous quote, right? And I find very huge inspiration.
Why is that? Because I feel like that's kind of depressing, that I'm just dust and molecules. Why shouldn't I bash your head in and steal your wallet if that's all you are?
No, because I look at it a completely different way to really dive into that quote specifically. It's that we are all stardust. I mean, that we used to be burning stars in the galaxy. We used to be these gigantic balls of gas.
One of my favorite Disney songs of all time.
That's right. It's fabulous. It's great. Right after Walt died. It was. We are all part of the same huge cosmic structure.
Okay.
Nothing is made from nothing, which means that we used to be stars. We also used to be dinosaurs. We also used to be rubber. We also used to be an automobile. Like, we are all kind of part of one thing. And I think that makes everything a lot more interconnected and a lot more engaging with me as a world. I don't have to feel so much as like it's an us versus them proposition. It's like, no, like literally we're all made of the same thing.
Okay, so we all have the same human dignity.
Yeah.
Because we all come from the same thing.
Yeah, and we should, I guess, here.
Okay.
Now that doesn't necessarily always play out the way that you want it to be.
Yeah.
But I mean, the concept there is that we are part of a bigger whole almost at that point, and not in a spiritual sense, but just meaning that as small as you might feel in the galaxy, well, that may be true, but you are an integral part of that galaxy at the same time.
I guess where I would counter that in my head is going, well, if I'm stardust as a human, and I know that humans have special worth, why is it that I can chop down a tree or swat a mosquito when they're made of stardust as well? And I guess as a Christian, I would say that being made in the image of God means that there's an inherent worth in each person, no matter what race or class they're from, and that they are going to last beyond the here and now, and that the here and now will be transformed to a new here and now with them in it.
But I guess my rebuttal to that would be that what can kind of go into that worldview a little bit is that if you are made in the image of God, that automatically makes you better than certain other people. And I'm talking specifically about, how about someone from a different religion who doesn't see themselves in the face of God? Well, I am, made in the image, so I can feel a bit more superior to you who does not believe that. So there can be this weird...
And I would just say that's the wrong thinking, because it's not about who you believe in, it's who God made you.
Right.
And it's something that I've been reading about recently, where it says that if Christians are depressed, they should think more, because if they're thinking the right thing, they'll find hope in that. And I feel like, I guess it's true for you, but my worry about your worldview is that the more you think, the more accurate the depression's going to get. But what you're saying is that actually you're thinking in the wrong way.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the way I'm looking at it. I'll be the first one to get into my mini depressions. And I want to be very clear. I'm not saying clinically depressed. That's a whole other separate thing. But yes, I am feeling down. I'm feeling in the dumps type of thing. When all these like huge philosophical things kind of get to me.
Yeah, and I'd say when I have that, what I find comfort in is my belief. It's saying that I do matter. I'm made in the image of God. I'm redeemed by Him. And so I can find comfort in that. So I kind of think my way out of it. Still have it, though.
Yeah, that's right.
We both love the movie. Do you think, as we wrap up, that question that's poised at the beginning of the film is answered by the film?
I do, and I don't want to really get into spoilers too
No.
much, but I think that she has shown very specifically that thinking of herself as the only person that has bad things happen to her,
Totally.
where she's the only good person,
Yeah.
she's shown that that is the wrong worldview
Right.
to take. That
She-
there is a more inclusive structure, and that her actions do have consequences.
Yeah, she's actually not the only un-asshole in the world.
Right,
She's a bit of an
yeah.
asshole herself in different ways.
Exactly.
And I would say that the character of Tony, played brilliantly by Elijah Wood, he's the
Right.
delight in this film, that he is someone who does believe in a higher power. He's a spiritual person,
Mm-hmm.
goes to church, and ends up, no spoilers, but the choices that he takes end up, in a sense, redeeming her. But
Right.
go watch the movie. It is on your Netflix queue.
That's right.
I don't feel at home in this world anymore. It's very short, about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I
I
loved
personally
it.
think the best running time for movies.
Hour and a
90
half.
minutes is like my sweet spot.
And he uses every joke finds itself back in the film later
Yeah.
on. He just uses it so well. So go check it out. Let us know what you think. If you have seen it, do you believe in this worldview? How would you answer that question? And then check us out on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud and wherever
Google
you get
Play,
your podcasts.
like all the places you can get your podcasts.
Assumptions Podcast. We'd love to hear what you think.
That's right.
Thank you.